You do the work of 3 people. You come in early, you stay late, and you never complain. You fix problems nobody else notices. You carry deadlines nobody else could meet, and you hold together systems that would collapse without you. And your reward for all of that? More work, more responsibility at the same paycheck, more silent expectation that you'll keep grinding because that's just what you do. Meanwhile, the part that keeps you up at night, you watch the smooth-talking, incompetent manipulator in the office get the promotion, the raise, and the respect. The one who takes 2-hour lunches. The one who repackages your ideas in meetings with a confident smile. The one who does a fraction of your output, but somehow commands 10 times your visibility. And no one says a word, because the system wasn't built to reward the person who does the work. It was built to reward the person who controls the perception of work. They conditioned you to believe in meritocracy. From your very first day of school, they taught you that hard work and loyalty lead to wealth, that if you just keep your head down and produce excellent results, the system will recognize you, elevate you, compensate you fairly. And that belief is a brilliantly designed psychological trap built by the people at the top to keep you producing while they keep extracting. If you're tired of being the most competent, underpaid person in every room you walk into, stay right here, because I'm about to hand you Machiavelli's dark rules for breaking the system, for seeing the corporate battlefield for what it is, and taking the wealth, the position, and the power you're owed. "500 years ago, Machiavelli didn't write that for soldiers. He wrote it for anyone who wants to command. And what he's telling you, across 5 centuries, is that the only skill that matters for someone who wants to rise is the skill of strategy. Not hard work, not loyalty, not competence. Strategy, the art of positioning, the discipline of reading the battlefield. And you are on a battlefield. You've been on one your entire career. You just didn't know it because they told you it was a family. It's not a family, it's a war for resources, status, and power. And you've been fighting it without armor, without weapons, and without a map, while everyone around you has been armed since day one. There's a question you were trained to never ask. Why does your company reward the loudest sociopath while punishing the quiet genius? Why does charisma consistently outperform competence in every corporate hierarchy you've ever seen? Why do the people who produce the least somehow accumulate the most? That question isn't cynical, it's the most important question in wealth psychology. And by the end of this video, you won't just have the answer. You'll have the dark psychology blueprint to reverse it. You'll understand the exact power dynamics that have kept you poor and exhausted, the Machiavellian corporate strategy that turns your competence into leverage instead of a liability, and the manipulation defense that makes you immune to the games that have been draining your talent for years. I'm going to show you the hidden system of power that operates underneath every office, every boardroom, and every performance review. The system nobody in charge wants you to see. Some of this will make you angry. Good. Anger with direction is fuel. And by the time we're done, you'll know exactly where to aim it. If these ideas resonate with you, hit that subscribe button for more top-tier content. Also, drop a "break the system" in the comments so I know you're ready. Let's dive in. How many years have you given to a company that could replace you in 2 weeks? You've given them your mornings, your evenings, your weekends, your mental health, your physical health, the years you could have spent building something of your own. And in return, they gave you a salary that barely keeps pace with inflation, and an annual review where someone who understands your job less than you do gets to decide if you're worth 3% more. Your boss doesn't care about your loyalty. They care about your leverage, and right now you have none, because you gave it all away the moment you became reliable without being strategic. The moment you became the person who always says yes, who takes on the extra project without negotiating the extra compensation, who solves the crisis on Friday night and gets a thank you email on Monday morning. If you're lucky, Corporate loyalty is not a mutual covenant, it's a control mechanism. When your employer talks about loyalty, about being a team player, about going the extra mile, they're not describing a relationship. They're describing a transaction where only one side is paying. Think about what happens when the company hits a rough quarter. Do they show loyalty to you? Do they say, well, this employee has been here 7 years, we can't let them go? They restructure, they downsize, they optimize, and your 7 years of loyalty become a number on a spreadsheet that someone in finance crosses out to hit a target. That's not a family, it's a battlefield. And you've been acting like a child waiting for a parent's approval while sitting in the middle of a war zone. Machiavelli understood that those who build the pyramids never get to sleep inside them. And that's exactly what's been happening to you. You build the systems, you solve the problems, you deliver the results. And someone else, someone who understands the game you refuse to play, sleeps in the corner office because of your labor. But quitting tomorrow isn't the answer. I know that's what the frustration makes you want to do. Walk in, slam your badge on the desk, and leave. But that's emotional, that's reactive, and reactive is exactly how they trained you to fail. What I'm going to show you is far more strategic, the stealth transition from loyal workhorse to positioned strategist that happens right under their noses. And by the time they notice, you're already 3 moves ahead. First, though, you need to understand the deeper mechanism, the one that explains why you specifically, the competent one, the intelligent one, the one carrying the operation, are the one being underpaid. It's not random, it's by design. Meritocracy is not real, not in the way you were taught. The idea that the best work rises to the top, that the most talented person gets the most reward, that the system is fair if you just perform well enough. That's a story. A very useful story. Useful for the people at the top, because if you believe the system is fair, you believe your current position is what you've earned. You believe that if you just work a little harder, stay a little later, produce a little more, the system will eventually recognize you. And that belief keeps you grinding at maximum output for minimum compensation, indefinitely. If being good at your job made you rich, donkeys would wear gold crowns. The way corporate hierarchies actually function is a study in power dynamics. Promotions, raises, executive visibility, these don't flow toward the person who produces the most. They flow toward the person who controls the narrative about production, the person who is seen producing, the person who makes their contribution visible, vocal, and impossible to ignore. Not the person who does the most, the person who is perceived as doing the most. And this is why sociopaths consistently make more money than empaths. Not because they work harder, because they understand that in any organization, perception is the only currency that matters. They understand that an hour in a visible meeting with the right stakeholders is worth more than 100 hours of invisible execution in a back office. They understand that an okay result with a spectacular presentation beats a spectacular result with no presentation, every single time. And you've been doing the opposite. You've been letting your work speak for itself. And your work has been whispering in an empty room while someone else shouts your accomplishments from the rooftop with their name on it. The psychological trick that executives and corporate climbers use to extract value from people like you is devastatingly simple. They identify the person who cares about the work more than the credit. That's you, the person who gets satisfaction from doing a good job and feels uncomfortable self-promoting, the person who thinks bragging is beneath them. And then they let you do the work. They take the credit. And they make sure you're just comfortable enough, just appreciated enough in small private ways that you don't revolt. A kind word in the hallway, an acknowledgement in a one-on-one that never makes it to the broader team. Just enough scraps to keep the machine running. That is manipulation at the corporate level. And your defense against it is not to work harder. It was never to work harder. Your defense is to change what you optimize for. Stop optimizing for output. Start optimizing for positioning. Now, most people hear that and make a fatal error. They think positioning means becoming fake, becoming political, becoming the very person they despise. It doesn't. And that misunderstanding is exactly what keeps brilliant people poor. The distinction between strategic visibility and inauthenticity is the difference between staying stuck and becoming someone the organization can't afford to ignore. In every organization, there are two games being played at the same time. There's the work game. Who does the most, who knows the most, who executes the best? And then there's the power game. Who is seen, who is connected, who controls the narrative. You've been playing the work game exclusively, obsessively with everything you've got, and you've been winning it. You are genuinely better at your job than most of the people above you. And that maddening, indisputable fact is precisely why you're still where you are. The work game and the power game have completely different rules. The person who wins the work game while ignoring the power game ends up being the most valuable person in the building and the least powerful. You become the engine of the machine, and engines don't get promoted. They get used until they burn out, and then they get replaced. The moment you become indispensable at your desk, you become unpromotable, because promoting you would create a gap nobody else can fill. And the system would rather keep you right where you are, productive, compliant, and locked in, than risk the disruption of moving you up. So what does corporate strategy look like for someone who actually wants to rise? It looks nothing like what you've been doing. The person who rises does three things you've been trained to believe are wrong. First, they delegate, not because they're lazy, but because they understand that as long as they're the one doing the work, they're the worker. The moment they coordinate the work, they're the leader, and organizations promote leaders, not workers. Second, they make their contributions visible. They send the update email. They present the results. They make sure the right people know what happened and who made it happen, not out of vanity, but because invisible work is worthless work in any corporate power structure. Third, and this one's going to feel the most uncomfortable, they build alliances, not friendships, alliances. Strategic relationships with people who hold power, influence, and visibility. People who can carry your name into rooms you're not in. People who can advocate for your promotion when the decision is being made behind closed doors. Those closed-door decisions are never about who deserves the promotion. They're about who comes to mind. And the person who comes to mind is never the quiet genius buried in spreadsheets. It's the person whose name has been circulating in the right conversations, attached to the right outcomes, carried by the right advocates. This isn't corruption. This is the 48 laws of power operating in real time in every workplace on the planet. You can either keep pretending these laws don't exist and watch people less talented than you climb over your back, or you can learn them, deploy them, and start climbing yourself. But visibility alone won't protect you without leverage. And leverage, real, strategic, Machiavellian leverage, is the difference between someone who gets noticed and someone who gets power. The reason you're underpaid is not that your work isn't valuable. It's that your work has no leverage attached to it. You produce enormous value, but the value is captured entirely by someone else. The company takes your output, monetizes it, and gives you back a fraction, the smallest fraction they can get away with, because you have no mechanism to demand more. And you have no mechanism to demand more because you've never built one. You've been so focused on being good at your job that you forgot to make yourself dangerous to lose. There's a massive difference between being hard to replace and being dangerous to lose. Hard to replace means they'll be inconvenienced when you leave. Dangerous to lose means they'll be damaged. And damage is the only language power structures understand. You're trading the best years of your life for a paycheck that barely covers your anxiety. And you're doing it because nobody taught you how to build the kind of leverage that forces the equation to change. So let's build it. The first form of leverage is knowledge asymmetry. You know things about the operation, the clients, the processes, and the systems that nobody else knows. But right now, because you've been sharing it freely, training people, documenting everything, being the generous team player, you've distributed your leverage to everyone around you. From this point forward, your deep operational knowledge is a strategic asset you share selectively, not hoarded maliciously, positioned strategically. You're not withholding information that would harm the team. You're ensuring that your unique understanding remains unique, because the moment everyone can do what you do, you've lost every card in your hand. The second form of leverage is external value, and this is what makes corporate strategists untouchable. Right now, 100% of your professional value is locked inside one company, one boss, one paycheck, one decision maker who can eliminate your entire income with a single conversation. That's not security. That's the most dangerous form of dependency there is. Real leverage comes from having alternatives that are known, not secret, known. When your company understands that other organizations value you, that your skills have a market rate exceeding what you're being paid, that you are not stuck, the entire negotiation shifts. You stop being someone they manage and start being someone they retain. And the psychology of retention is completely different from the psychology of management. Managers control, retainers negotiate. Negotiation is where power lives. Without external value, your boss will see through any attempt at negotiation because they'll know what you know, that you have nowhere else to go. And a person with nowhere else to go doesn't have leverage. They have a request, and requests get denied. The third form of leverage is institutional dependency. This means positioning yourself at the center of critical workflows, relationships, or revenue streams so that your departure isn't just inconvenient, it's structurally damaging. Not through sabotage, through placing yourself at the intersection of value so precisely that removing you creates a cascade. When you have all three, knowledge asymmetry, external value, and institutional dependency, you don't ask for raises. You don't beg for promotions. You don't hope someone notices your contribution. You walk into that conversation holding cards that make the outcome inevitable, because the alternative, losing you, costs them more than paying you what you're worth. That's manipulation defense at the corporate level. You're not manipulating anyone, you're making it mathematically irrational for them to undervalue you. But leverage without execution is just theory, and you've consumed enough theory to fill a library. What you need now is the playbook, the sequence that turns these principles into money, position, and power. The loyalty lie, the meritocracy myth, the visibility doctrine, the leverage framework, those are the pillars. This is where you build on them. This is where dark psychology meets your bank account. The exact sequence of moves that separates the person who understands corporate strategy from the person who profits from it. Step 1. Audit your current position with surgical honesty. Not the story you tell yourself about your job, the reality. 3 questions. First, if I left tomorrow, how long would it take them to replace my output? If the answer is less than 3 months, your leverage is weak. Second, does the person who decides my compensation know specifically what I contribute? Not vaguely, specifically. If the answer is no, you're invisible where it matters. Third, do I have an active, credible alternative, another offer, a freelance income stream, a business on the side that I could survive on if this job disappeared? If the answer is no, you're operating from dependency. And dependency is the death of negotiation. Most people never do this audit because the answers are terrifying. But that terror is information. And information, even painful information, is the first step in any Machiavellian strategy. Step 2, redirect your effort. Starting now, take 20% of the energy you've been pouring into invisible tasks and redirect it into visible, strategic activity. That means volunteering for projects with executive attention. That means sending the concise summary email after a key meeting so your name is attached to the outcome. That means scheduling the conversation with senior leadership about the direction of the department, not because you need their approval, but because that conversation plants your name in their strategic thinking. This isn't self-promotion. It's repositioning. You're moving yourself from the back of the engine to the front of the train. Step 3, and this is where most hard workers make the mistake that guarantees they stay broke. Stop saying yes to everything. Your automatic yes is the single most expensive habit in your career. Every time you say yes to an extra task, an unreasonable deadline, a responsibility that should carry a title change or a pay increase, and you absorb it without negotiation, you set a new baseline. You teach the organization that this level of output is what you deliver for free, and every yes after that raises the floor they expect while keeping the ceiling exactly where it is. The strategist says something different. The strategist says, I can take that on. Let's talk about how this changes my scope and what the adjustment looks like. Not hostile, not entitled, calm, professional, and unmovable. That single sentence communicates that you understand the value of your labor. And people who understand their own value get treated differently than people who don't. When they push back, and they will, the system doesn't quietly accept it when a productive person starts setting boundaries. First comes the guilt. We're all pitching in. It's a team effort. Then, the subtle threat. There are a lot of people who would love to be in your position. And the most dangerous move, they'll use your own conscientiousness against you. They'll imply your new boundaries mean you don't care anymore, that you've checked out, that you're not a team player. Every one of those responses is designed to trigger the people-pleaser inside you and pull you back into compliance. Everyone relies on your conditioned guilt to override your strategic thinking, and every one of them needs to bounce off you like rain off stone. Your response to guilt is silence and sustained performance at your chosen level. Your response to subtle threats is the quiet acceleration of your external value, updating your network, activating your contacts, ensuring you have options. And your response to the weaponization of your conscientiousness is the most powerful phrase in corporate dark psychology. I'm performing at the level my current role and compensation support. That sentence communicates that you see the imbalance, that you're no longer willing to subsidize the gap between your output and your compensation, and that the ball is now in their court. You haven't complained, you haven't threatened, you've simply made the economic reality of the relationship explicit, and explicit economics terrify employers who've been relying on your emotional economics, your guilt, your loyalty, your fear of conflict, to get premium work at discount prices. Step 4. Build the parallel track. While you're executing steps 1 through 3 inside your current position, you must be building income and value outside of it. Freelance consulting, a side business, an investment strategy, a skill you monetize independently. Whatever it is, it must exist. Because the ultimate leverage in any corporate negotiation is the ability to leave, not the threat, the ability. When your livelihood is no longer hostage to one organization's opinion of you, you become the most dangerous person in any professional negotiation. Not because you're aggressive, because you're free, and free people negotiate from a position that dependent people never will. By the end of this, you'll have a blueprint to double your market value while cutting your wasted effort in half. Not by working harder, by working strategically, redirecting the energy you've been bleeding into invisible loyalty and pouring it into visible leveraged positioning that the market has to pay for. That's wealth psychology, not theory, execution. I want you to think about who you were when you pressed play on this video, the weight you were carrying, the frustration of doing everything right and getting nothing for it, the quiet rage of watching people with half your skill and none of your ethics leapfrog you again and again, the sinking realization, the one you kept pushing down, that maybe the system was never going to reward you, that maybe the rules you followed were designed by the very people who profit from your compliance. You weren't wrong to feel that. You were right. The system isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as designed. It's designed to extract maximum value from the people who believe in meritocracy and funnel the rewards to the people who believe in strategy. And for years, maybe decades, you were on the extraction side of that equation. Not anymore, because now you understand something that changes the architecture of your entire professional life. Hard work without strategy is charity. Loyalty without leverage is slavery. Competence without visibility is a gift to the people who take credit for your output. And none of that makes you cynical. It makes you awake. Awake in a system designed to keep you asleep. Let the good employee die today. Not the competent one, not the skilled one, the good one, the obedient one. The one who swallows frustration because making waves feels worse than drowning quietly. The one who takes pride in suffering through unfair conditions because it proves how tough they are. The one who confuses endurance with excellence and silence with strength. That version of you got you skills, knowledge, and a reservoir of competence most people in your industry would kill for. But it can't take you where you need to go, because where you need to go requires a version of you that the old one would have been afraid of. A version that calculates before it commits, negotiates before it delivers, builds leverage before it builds loyalty. A version that understands in its bones that the workplace is not a family, not a meritocracy, and not a charity. It's a Machiavellian battlefield, and you're no longer going to be the one who builds the pyramids for someone else to sleep inside. You're going to sleep inside what you build. If something in this video cracked open a door you've been standing in front of for years, if you felt that shift, the moment where the old programming started to dissolve and something colder, sharper, and more strategic took its place, drop a comment. 2 words. Break the system. That comment isn't for me. It's for the version of you that just woke up. It's the first strategic act of someone who's decided that being used is no longer an option. And if you're serious about this, if you understand that what you heard today isn't motivation, it's a fundamental operating system for wealth, power, and professional dominance, subscribe. This is the only place where dark psychology, Machiavellian strategy, and the hidden mechanics of power dynamics are decoded for minds like yours. Not to help you cope with the system, to help you dominate it. Every video is another law in the 48 laws of power that the people at the top don't want decoded. Every concept is another weapon in your corporate strategy arsenal. And the people gathering here, the silent strategists, the quiet geniuses who are done being quiet, this is where the shift happens. And don't stop now. In our next video, we decode the psychology of the unseen manipulator, the specific type of person who's been siphoning your energy, your credit, and your career trajectory while smiling to your face. If this video lit a fire, that one will show you exactly who's been pouring water on it your entire career. It's already on screen. Click it, because what you don't know about the person sitting 3 desks away from you might be the most expensive blind spot you have. See what others miss, know what others fear, become who others can't.